All right. Welcome back to another episode of the Supply Chaney podcast. I'm your host, Nathan Chaney. And today we're going to talk a little bit about supply chain visibility and actually like supply chain and logistics operating systems, which is actually a term I just kind of heard recently. And we've got the founder of Grydd, Dan Acosta, on today to talk to us a little bit about that. But as we do on all episodes, we want to kind of talk about Dan the man a little bit. Who's the man behind the brand? And what's his career been like in supply chain and in the industry, and maybe we'll just touch a little bit on the fact that we're going to be seeing each other here pretty soon at the Panama Supply Chain Forum, which Grydd is one of the sponsors for. So thanks for that, Dan. Let me get out of the way here and hand you the digital microphone for a minute and let you catch people up on who you are and what you're all about.
Sure. Well, Nathan, thanks for having me on. And I'm Dan Acosta. I'm CEO and founder of Grydd now. A little bit about myself. Grew up in Latin America, actually. So originally from Colombia, been in the States, I would say, most of my life. Multiple careers here. I came to college here and then I stayed here, went to Boston for my MBA. Decided to stay here. Mainly driven by always wanted to start a company, wanted to start something new, innovative, change things around a little bit, kind of challenge the status quo like any entrepreneur out there. Um, Found, and I thought I did it a little bit differently, where I wanted to get a little bit more experience firsthand working with companies, not just come up with an idea out of the blue, but actually something that would actually help enterprise level side. So I would say the opportunity and fortune to work with several companies in the States and outside too. So I've worked with companies like Office Depot, Tyco, you name it. I've been consulting in other companies as well, big companies, pharma and so on, and chemical side of it too. And some of it, a little bit of consulting in aviation as well. But had the opportunity firsthand to kind of see how businesses operate, how they work, and the biggest pain points that they have inside little bit of an entrepreneur building solutions for them internally and so on. And then one day decided, look, supply chain is kind of cool. I know it's not the best for many people. It seems not as attractive as others, but it's one of those where it's necessary. And I started as a finance guy. I've been a numbers guy always, analytics, business intelligence, and had the chance to start working on global sourcing and understanding how the whole process of getting your products from different areas around the world would happen, working with 3PLs, 4PLs, carriers across the board, and found how cumbersome, disjointed the process was, and how many hours and resources we internal were using to get just a simple product from China or Europe or anywhere in the world to us and to multiple locations, and said, hey, there's an opportunity here to build something new, right? So um, I started building in Excel, like a typical finance guy. Started building in Excel what a model of a new product would look like, how it would relate to us, and how it would work. And then that became my first company. That was mainly visibility, more understanding. Hey, where's my product at all times, right? I want to know where my container is. Do I lose it? And I had multiple opportunities where containers didn't make it or were stuck in some port in transit and never made it to our final destination, or we got them and we had no clue, or some of them were literally dropped in the water and nobody told us about it. Then it just a few weeks later, you would understand, hey, I have no product, right? So I have to figure out how to fill my stores. So figure, okay, important, good to know where your stuff is at all times, similar to what we do right now with an Amazon or UPS or USPS or FedEx, whatever you name it. But that was one of the perks of it, right? The other part was understanding cost components and lead times and how that impacts the whole supply chain and how inventory turns when you start talking about, well, how do I efficiently move product and how do I fastly move out of that product, and what does that mean in terms of keeping product in the shelves or in the warehouses way too long, inventory cost and inventory carrying cost and so on. So, look, found a niche, found a place. I started this about 15 years ago. I was basically in Florida back in the day. I would say 15 years ago, I used to live in Florida, enjoying the sun. And then one day decided, let's just move to the other side of the US, enjoy the beautiful clouds and rainy weather, and just enjoy Seattle. It was a good tech hub, great hub for understanding and learning things. And hence why we have a lot of partnerships there with Microsoft and so on. But I took my career there to do more business intelligence, and I really started my first company that evolved into what Grydd is right now. But I said I've been fortunate to have different understandings of different parts of the industry. I'm not a pure finance guy. I think I haven't done a major model in many years now. I'm more focused on software and understanding software and working with UI, UX folks to, hey, how do we build something better for customers to do an intuitive process and change the way we operate? And I know you said something, Nate, about operating systems, right? And so there's operating systems across the board. I'm not going to name because there's a lot in supply chain. There's different pieces, but they still lack, I would say, that intuitive side of it that has evolved with software, right? So if you pick up a phone right now and you pick up an iPhone or anything, your software, your applications are more intuitive now, are easy to use. They flow, and I think Apple has done a phenomenal job on that end. So why not apply what you're doing to B2C to B2B? Why don't you make something more intuitive, more ease of use, more simple to manage, rather than just having this old school 1980s, 1990s mentality that still runs kind of our enterprise and makes it hard for us to run. So Grydd, we're starting to focus more on that ease of use, and we're starting to use AI to make that better, to make that flow easier we're still humans, so we're going to use this, make that an extension of our capacity as humans, right? Not just another tool that you have to use to get to your job and do something boring every day and load it in a system. Have the system be a part of what you're doing. And in supply chain, none of the other. So we are doing that right now. So that's been quite fun. It's been an interesting journey. Had the chance to not only live in the US, but other parts of the world, in Europe as well. And happen to have also European capacity. I'm able to move and live in Europe as well. So I had that opportunity and actually experienced different cultures. And again, same thing. We were trying to apply supply chain is a commonality across all nationalities. We all have to live and breathe this. So our goal is to build everybody will call it a better mousetrap, but I would say a better tool for you or a better extension of yourself to make supply chain easier for us to use and run and understand. So a little bit more, I know I was kind of all over, but that's a little bit of myself. Work with small, medium size, and very large corporations, like I said. So I understand the pain points across the board. And to be honest, very similar across the board. Not a lot of differences, just a lot more systems that you have to navigate and things as bigger the corporation is, right? But yeah, that's Nate, a little bit about myself. Yeah, I'm now in Florida for the next few months or so. We'll be eventually back in Seattle, and we'll see. But that's where we are right now. It's just mainly commercial purposes. We have a lot of customers here. We're starting to extend our footprint in Latin America, so being in Miami helps. It's just a plane hop away, and you're in 2 hours and somewhere in Latin America. So we're doing that too. So that's mainly why I'm here, and extending our team. Of course, we're growing our team as well. We're hiring right now. So cool.
Okay. Maybe we can dive in a little bit more into the nuts and bolts of Grydd in a bit. But as kind of tradition is I like to try to unpack a little bit more who the human is on the other side of the microphone here. So you mentioned that you're kind of from Colombia and you came to the U.S. Can you talk a little bit about that transition and some like early influences in your life that kind of led to who you are today?
Sure. Look, this is like a dating profile, I guess. So I get it, man. I moved to the US in my early 20s, very young age. I wanted to come to school here. One of my grandparents actually came to school here in Georgia. So I had always that influence on the American side, although my other side of the family went to German schools. So that was a little different. I'll grow up with that more. But it was basically, there was always an affinity with the US, right? Is the affinity of, that mecca of building corporations, the beacon of what the new world would look like. So I always wanted to come here. At an early age, when I was 14, I think I read one of my influential books in terms of entrepreneurship. I read The War of the Cokes by Roger Enrico. I went to Babson and used to be the CEO of Pepsi. High influence there. It was like, okay, this is very cool what he'd done with the company, the experience. So I decided, why not go to Babson and make that one of my goals. So although I came first to Florida and I studied here in Florida, I ended up doing my MBA in Babson, and always with that mindset of entrepreneurship. And that actually did really help a lot with that part of it. There was also a huge influence from my family that you gotta go to the US and live the US. And yeah, the American dream, which is a little bit different, of course, but you have to work a lot, which is totally fine. So no issues in the working side. But that was basically it. Honestly, oddly enough, I ended up in business when my whole family wanted me to be a doctor. That did not happen, and thank God didn't happen. That would have been horrendous for other people. So totally fine on that one. So ended up in business, and oddly enough, I was awful in math in school. In high school, I was terrible, but I ended up being extremely good in math. And when it comes to practical terms, I ended up being very good in math for financial math and so on. So I ended up building models. I guess the practicality of it helped. And that actually did help me with, hey, how do we build a product? And I did build my first product while I was in grad school. Nothing related to supply chain at all. It was basically a software for small and medium sized companies, financial side of it, financial management, and so on. Oddly enough, that name of that product now is the name of one of our products in Grydd. We used to call it Lighthouse, and now Lighthouse is our visibility platform in Grydd. So interesting that we took that. But yeah, I mean, my family is, oddly enough, going back to my personal side, my family is all over the world. Family, some of it is still in Colombia, some of it here is in Florida, in Miami, some of it in Australia. Some of my brothers live in Europe. So we're kind of, I would say, the typical Latin Hispanic that migrates all over the world, and we're all over the place. Uh, yeah, that's mainly me. No kids at this point. No family yet. I mean, I did. I had family. I had a marriage and everything, but now, right now, I would say my kids, my family is my company, which is good. That doesn't mean that's not going to change, but I do. I do a lot of effort for my company to make sure that it grows. It's something that it's dear and near my heart, and I want to make sure that this flows well. And the US is actually home for me. It is where I feel home. I love it. And it's been a great opportunity for us to grow. So, as a human and as a company, too. So,
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Awesome. My wife is originally from Brazil and has been here in
awesome.
the U.S. for 10 years. So I understand the concept, and her family has spread out and whatnot. And she also came here kind of chasing the American dream. And although there was an option between Australia, U.S., and England, right? Is go somewhere English speaking and whatnot. So
Yeah,
it's
oddly
it's
enough, my ex is Australian. She's
uh-huh.
Aussie. Super smart.
Yeah.
Very good friends. Very, very smart, too. So, yeah, she's fantastic. So, yeah, love the Aussies. It's a very different mindset. Okay, cool.
A quick question then. So you kind of hinted that the family wanted you to go medical. You didn't think you'd go business because you weren't good at math. And then you ended up kind of stumbling into finance. And now you're kind of tech plus supply chain. So you've got this really diverse sort of background. And you mentioned a while ago an inspirational or influential book. I think a question I like to ask is, do you have a go-to quote or book today that you kind of point people to, or a quote
Hmm.
that you kind of harken back to whenever times are rough or times are good or people are struggling, and you say, hey, this is the quote you need to work on?
So I wouldn't say a quote. And from a business side, yes, I read a lot of business books, and everybody does. That's fine. I think my go-to book has always been The Alchemist. So nothing to do with business, but more about life in itself, and very. So that was actually one of the ones that I read constantly. Literally, I just read it again. I don't know how many times I've read it. There's a lot of insights in there in terms of how you live life, and I guess the ability that we have as humans to create and to build something, and that resonates in everything that we do and as every single day. So I think building a company is just an extension of the ability that we have as humans to create something and build something. And either we build it out of love or we build it out of fear. And I would prefer the first one. So we're constantly creating. So that one always resonates with me. And that's my go to book. I would say there's a lot of quotes in there. But I just recently was looking at Dan, like I just mentioned, it's like, as humans, we're always creating. As beings, we're always creating. So we're always, you choose the path that you can, like I said, you can create out of fear, and your life would be not that great, or you can create out of love or virtue or passion and build something better. Um, yeah, and that's kind of where I go to. That's my go-to book always. So yeah, in that sense, very, very eye-opening for me. And like every time I have a hard day, it's like, oh, let's have a read, and it comes to you. Yeah,
I like it. I like it. I might have to check that out a little bit. Check out the Spark Notes
it's a it's
version.
it's the Brazilian. It's Paulo Coelho. So your wife
Oh,
should know about it. Yeah, he's
okay,
Brazilian. Yeah,
okay, okay.
yeah.
Another question. So you work hard. You've accomplished a lot. But what do you do in your downtime? Hobbies, fun stuff. What do you fill your time with outside of the office?
So things have changed a little bit with Seattle, Miami, right? So getting in the water in Seattle 9 months out of the year, you're in the middle of rainy season or clouds. I do kite surf, so I'm getting back to that in Miami, which is kind of good because actually you could do it over here. All sorts of water sports. I do trying to go to the gym, trying to get more into yoga now. Get your and honestly, lately a lot of walking. It's kind of my meditation. So walking and running. So I'm starting to do 20, 25K at least twice a week. So it's kind of good. It helps with the mind. That's mainly it, yes. And I think it's important when even when I'm working, I'm trying to do it on a walk, have a chat, and kind of opens things up a little bit more. But yeah, that's it. And travel. I do love to travel. And I think part of me starting a company that had a global outreach was that ability to build a company, but also be able to participate and work with other cultures. It is great. Like I said, I lived in Europe for a while, and it was great to be able to experience different parts of Europe, different cultures. You live this in the US, this diversity that you have here. But I do travel a lot, and every year I make it a priority that at the end of the year I will make a long trip. Last year was Australia. This year will be New Zealand and so on. But I'll always bring something new. I want to travel always. Some of it for business, a majority of it for business, but some of it pleasure as well. Yeah.
I
And
think
nature. Yeah, sorry.
I don't know. I was gonna say, I think one of the nice things about being an entrepreneur and having your own business and is that you can kind of customize and blend your own life together how you like. So you can take a trip to New Zealand, Australia, and make it 60 or 70% work and 30% fun, and
Sure.
so. But it's up to you, and your boss is not going to be mentoring you on how to blend and mix the right amount of work and life. It's really up to you because you're your own boss of how do you balance walking, going out for a 25K run. I was going to ask you, when you're running, is it silence, music, or podcasts or books?
Uh, Either one. It depends on the day. So
Okay.
sometimes it's music, sometimes it's just a little bit of a meditation kind of a thing. And sometimes it could be an audiobook that I'm just listening to and actually getting back in the groove. And then just basically stop to, hey, let's have a chat because somebody has to have a question or a customer wants to talk to you, which is always the case. Yeah. So it blends. It blends across the board. Yeah.
I gotcha. So let's chat maybe a little bit about maybe some of the one of the fun kind of questions I like to try to ask is there an example in your career and what you've experienced where you kind of failed, where you dropped the ball, something fell through the cracks. At the time it felt like the world was ending, but you were able to move past it, make it a learning lesson, and it's kind of like the thing that you point to whenever people say, "Hey, what was one of those biggest life lessons you've learned?"
No, I mean, we all fail, right? It's part of life, but I would say my first company. I think we had a good idea. We had a good blend of what the world needed at the time. That visibility component was there, and I think we were one of the early ones. Uh, remember waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning and having conversations with a company in Bulgaria to get some AIS data so we can actually start harvesting and looking at vessels all over the world. And that was just not where things are more satellite based now. So we started that one. And I think as an entrepreneur, I failed in the sense of I had an engineering team that could have been better managed in that sense. We could have had a better way, or I could have managed it a little bit better in terms of deliverables and product and so on. And we raised capital, great. We had good investors. We had an opportunity to go to a Series A very quickly. And I realized when we were chatting with very big companies that, hey, getting into our product was not easy. We were not getting, when I was getting requests from customers, my engineering team wasn't really getting it done properly. And basically, we were also, like I said, we were raising a Series A at the time. And unfortunately, I saw that we had a lot of gaps in the process, a lot of hey, this is not tied up, this is not ready to go, we cannot afford a customer of this size, or giving them access to the platform, just creating a login is not there. So just simple stuff. It looks beautiful. Actually, the product looked very pretty. The front end was stunning. The back end wasn't there. So I started running audits and realized that, and before anything went dark, I said, look, I'm gonna slow down the Series A process. I'm gonna slow down all the customer side of it, because I don't want to fail. I don't want to be the company that promises something that doesn't deliver. So that was not going to happen. And I don't want to fail my investors either. I have a responsibility with my investors. So that ended up being a mayhem of about 2 years, with added divorce to that process too. So not the funnest time in my life. Uh, but I said, look, I learned there's an opportunity in the market. We also had a freight forwarder that we started, a digital freight forwarder that we started, and it was caught in the midst of all that stuff. Also learn about more about freight forwarding, and how how awful of an operating margin business it is. So how low margins and how complicated it is sometimes. So kind of those companies, I decided, hey, I'm gonna let them go. I am still gonna push through for the next one and take my lessons learned and apply it to a new company, and basically respect my investors. So I brought them over to this new company, new entity, and build a product from the ground up. Literally, we didn't use any of the code, any of the stuff in the product. We decided, let's just build it. I interviewed the engineering teams for about 2.5 years or so before I made my decision to say, yeah, you guys are going to be the ones. And we started building. We started building a new product. Uh, I had the opportunity to work with another big company, Fortune 100, and learned more to be a better product manager. So really take the hat off. You're not a finance guy. This is just not an idea. You have to be a product manager per se. So I became more of a product manager with product owners, with the whole process. And we started building Grydd. And Grydd in itself came from two meanings in that time of when I started it. It was Grydd as building the network. So that's, yeah, the name has two D's and one Y. I get it. Try to buy a domain that actually has Grydd. It'll cost you 100 grand. And yes, my investors will kill me if I spend that money on just buying a name. So fair enough. So we called it Grydd because of connecting the network, and supply chain is a network. But also, we all believe that Grydd came with a T. So we all had to have Grydd as entrepreneurs to keep pushing forward and build a new one and keep pushing forward. So it has a combined name of it. I think we are still applying those lessons learned with our new product assortment, and what we're doing right now is, how do you really manage product better? How do you let go of things certain times? So some products are not gonna be great, and we built multiple products, right? We built multiple modules. We're in that process of, okay, making it simpler for clients to understand, simple for us to run it and understand it. So there's always that product management side of it that we're learning, and product market fit that we're working on right now and expanding. Now I'm more learning about sales and building a good sales organization, and it's not the easiest thing on the planet. They don't teach you that in business school. They teach you all the marketing scams and economics and stuff that you could do. Nobody teaches you how to sell. And selling is a very different mindset, and in an enterprise is a very long process. It's not what VCs think. Oh, this is not Tinder. You don't grow from a customer base from 1 to 3,000 in one day. This takes effort and time, that once you're in, you're in. But yeah, I would say one of those. It was that time was actually quite dark. I would say it's 6 months, a lot of stress of dealing with making sure that you're not failing to the customer that we had, but also not failing to our investors, and realizing, look, the product wasn't there, and just being realistic and sitting and saying, well, the product wasn't there, and it is. It's just the truth is the product doesn't exist. So you have to build it from scratch. Now we actually do have a product. So now we actually have multiple products, and they actually do work, and there's actually customers using them. And now we're changing. But without that lesson, I would have been very naive in this time of my life. Yeah.
Yeah, the concept of like, failure is the best teacher, and the best way to learn is to go out and try, start going down that road and realize that, oh, that's not, that wasn't the right road, didn't quite take the right turn.
Right.
And then come back to it having that lesson in the back of your mind, and building with all that experience in mind.
Yeah, and it teaches you about partnership not only on your entrepreneurial side, but also on your personal side. Meaning the partner that you have right next to you, uh, she or he or whoever you have has to be aligned with you in what you're building. And if she's not or he's not or whatever you have, in that case for me with her, you understand that maybe that person is not built for that, and that it's not her fault. There's nothing bad against it. It's just that's not what she wants. So this path is going to be harder for her or for the other person. So for me, that was also understanding that. I think that was a lesson, and completely respect that person for that journey that we got to, but I didn't understand that. I was not very clear on understanding, okay, we're very different in different paths. And this was very hard for her too. I get that. So it's a process, right? Everything is relationship.
Yeah, good point. Personal relationships and professional relationships.
Yeah.
You mentioned that you had an advisor for Grydd that's recently come in and is now the CCO and stuff. Can you talk a little bit about like building your leadership team? And like, did you go with a like founder only? No co-founder, kind of going into Grydd, and then like how's that trajectory been?
I did start with a co-founder, a friend from grad school. Um, Unfortunately, it didn't work out. So a difference of opinions, I guess. Again, when you're in entrepreneurship and when you're running a company, a small company, right? You do everything, right? You're the one writing the papers, making the coffee. You're then building the financial model that you're taking to VCs. You're building the decks. Everything comes to you, right? So having somebody else that has a mentality that I come from a Fortune 500 and I have an army of people doing all this stuff for me, to hey, we're coming to entrepreneurship is a little bit different, right? So it's a toll on certain people. Um, so that didn't work out. So I started with co-founder. Unfortunately, that didn't work out. And she was a very good friend. Unfortunately, in business, when that doesn't work out, things just fall off. It's been taking me a while to get a good leadership team on board. I think I would say I have a very good board that I've built throughout the years. Our board of directors actually is a very some of them, of course, are investors, but some of them are people that actually I have worked with in the past. Either I reported to them mostly. So I would say one of our investors, and also one of my mentors, former Home Depot, Amazon executive that actually has started his own companies. It turns out always to be one of my go-to persons when I have a question in terms of business, because he gets it. And he's like, look, you should think about it this way. Have you thought about it? And it's great. Brought people from DHL as well, but also good friends that actually teach you how to, hey, this maybe think about it this way too. And actually, one of our customers, eventually, one of what that used to be our customers, actually joined in as chief of. He's the chairman of the board now. Fantastic guy, somebody that I trust with my life. But building that executive team is a little bit different, and it's taken me a while. I've actually tried another COO at one point. Different, didn't get it, no problem at all, right? It is what it is. You just got to move fast. Alex has been somebody that I met about a year and a half ago, actually in Panama. So actually about a year ago when we did this event in Panama, I met Alex, and Alex actually was one of the presenters before I was presenting. And he did an amazing job. Honestly, I was like, dude, this is impressive. I am going to look like an idiot over here after him, because he did an amazing presentation. And he did it for about an hour. I was like, dude, I could do this for 30 minutes, maybe. So he did an amazing job. We started chatting, and he started telling me about what he was working on in the AI side of the world, which is very cool. And then little by little, I think the last 6 months, we started connecting more and more. And he said, "Hey, I understand supply chain very well. I get it. I lived it like you on the other side of the fence where I was a shipper using freight forwarding or 3PLs or 4PLs and so on." And he actually got it. And it was more of a doer in that sense. So he really, I brought him over and said, "Look, man, I need support. I need somebody that can get in and manage operations, help me with product and sales." So he really started gunning and changing things around. And he said, "Look, this is going to be a shakeup for the team. You gotta let me do my thing." And I would be very protective if I didn't trust him. But I like shakeups sometimes in companies, and even us companies need a shakeup. We need to brace ourselves for, hey, you could be more efficient. And now with AI, we could be more efficient as well. We can actually code with less people because AI could do the code for you. And so you're not only expecting that from bigger companies, but us as well. We need to be able to do that. And Alex has brought that over as well. So he's been great. He'll be in Panama as well. I think we still have a little, normally we'll have, and it's good to have that conversation where we don't agree. Literally last week, we didn't agree with one. And it was just basically, we have a freight forwarding system. Yeah, we have a platform called Vecto that's freight forwarding. And I think that needs to improve because we don't want to be the next CargoWise or the next Magaya. There's already two of those. Who cares? We want to be the next one. We want to be the one that actually changes the world and uses agentic AI to improve how you do things. So there's a massive opportunity in freight forwarding. And I think where Alex could help is that. So we have our struggles in that, but I think we're starting to grow in that sense. And that building that executive team has been good. Engineering has been better, I would say, in that end. I would say our partner in the engineering side, that's somebody that has been hard worker, knows how to code, gets in there when we need it. He actually jumps on the code as well. Um, I think we need the next level where we actually are pushing forward to the next stage and finding that executive that could take, hey, I could sit with Home Depot or I could sit procuring. It's coming, right? And it's evolving the technology. That's something that is coming. But it's been good. I think our executive team has changed multiple times. Uh, Sometimes you think, oh, maybe I'm the issue. So, but I'm starting to build a better team. But I think Alex has been good. Nabil has been fantastic as an advisor as well. He's been great, and he will also be in Panama probably. So,
Well, you've
yeah,
already teed up Panama a couple of times now, and now that was an amazing story, by the way. First of all, the fact that that small little just you are the next speaker in line, and met Alex from there, and that relationship has blossomed and developed over the last year to where it is now. That's such an amazing testament to the power of being in person and meeting people and conferences and networking, all that sort of good stuff. That no, we talk a lot about it, but when you can hear real concrete testimony and stories about where that actually happens, it's so cool to hear. So let's talk for just a second about your experience at the Panama Supply Chain Forum last year, and then this year being a sponsor, and then kind of what you're looking forward to at this year's event.
no, it's been great. I think the first one for us, I guess, I don't know how long. It was last year, and it was fantastic. I know them all, Demosthenes. We know them for many years. He is actually a fantastic guy. He actually is working with us and great as well. But he's one of those forces in supply chain that knows a lot of people, is well connected, but also really knows the industry very well. So that opened up the opportunity for us to be able to connect with different companies out there. And like you said, it's a very good networking opportunity, good understanding, good people that are really interested in changing what they're doing and improving what they're doing. So when you go to those events, people are more open to understand what they're looking for, what we can offer them, rather than, hey, I'm sending you a cold email, figure it out when you're busy day, what you're doing. So it's taking that opportunity to sit down and really say, look, this is what we can do with that. And that eventually either becomes a partner that joins their company or a customer or a client or something to that extent. So Panama has been great. I think it's really, like I said, focused in supply chain, and it helps that end for us. So the people that go are supply chain oriented, and we try to. There's another one that we go to as well in the CSA as a CSA group as well, but it's more shipping, Korean Shipping Association, which has been great too. But I think Panama, in that sense, was great. I think this year is a little bit bigger, a lot of experts in the industry, and I'm just happy to be part of that process. And this networking Oddly enough, I'm not the biggest networker. I would say that. No social media presence other than LinkedIn. So, but it is important. There's no Tinder for this time of events. There's no stuff like that. This is something that in person makes it better. And so I'm looking forward to this one. I'm looking forward to be there with Alex and Nabil and the Demosthenes and the team, and actually meeting some of the customers that we're actually already talking to in person, and see how that evolves into us growing with them. Yeah.
Well, based on your return on time invested last year, I would expect that it just takes one good conversation, one good contact, and you can benefit from being part of events like this for the rest of your company's existence. It can have a really big impact. Question, kind of as we wrap up here. Uh, if you were to go back to when you were in school and studying finance and kind of figuring out what you were going to do and start your career, which you kind of started in finance and whatnot, would you give yourself any advice of anything to do differently to get to kind of where you are today? What advice might you give yourself back in your undergrad days?
Who? Do something in computer science. Yeah, really learn how to code a little bit. And oddly enough, I come from a family of coders. So I have family that actually does programming. Both uncles actually have done it. Um, and yeah, I would say that would be one of the ones. That would have been great to learn that from the get go. But again, I think finance gave me that edge as well. I would say, "Oh, you're a bean counter." No, I'm not. And it is. Numbers are important. Don't get me wrong; they're extremely important. I think the way I was successful with finance was actually turning finance into something that customers actually. It's not numerical or an algorithm or math. It's just okay. This is what your process needs to do. So, how does forecasting improve? I got to do forecasting that resonates with what you do as a if you're a merchant or a buyer or whatever. How does it work for you? How do you run your business? So it actually replicates that. So that helped me. But I would say that coding would have been great to learn. Computer science would have been fantastic. Getting more into understanding that data side of it, that would have been something that would have been done differently if I had the opportunity to change that.
All right. Well, that's good. I mean, kind of makes sense. Kind of makes sense.
Yeah,
Um, well, I appreciate you coming on today, and we'll be getting to spend some time together in Panama here pretty soon, and excited for that. And until then, I guess best of luck as you grow Grydd and go about enjoying your time there by the beach in Florida, and
somewhat. Yeah,
see
trying
trying
to.
to.
It's far. Yeah,
Yeah.
but no, Nathan, thank you so much. Yeah, thanks a lot. I appreciate it. Yeah, and love to see. I mean, a lot of good changes in Grydd as we will come. There's a lot of products that are coming out. So again, well, we're starting to work with all of them. We have carrier solutions, so we'll see it. So we will be able to showcase that in Panama a little bit more.
Excellent. All right. I'll see you there.
Awesome. All right. See you, Nathan. Bye then.